The motion light in my backyard had been going off every night at 3:12 a.m. for 11 days straight, and nothing on my cameras ever explained why. My name's Renata. I'm 31, and I live alone in a rancher outside Tulsa that my grandmother left me 2 years ago. It's a quiet street, mostly retirees, the kind of neighborhood where somebody mows their lawn, and 3 other people come out to watch. I work remote, so I'm home most days and most nights, which is probably why I noticed the light at all. The first few times it happened, I didn't think much of it. Motion lights trip for raccoons, cats, a branch swaying wrong. My backyard backs up to a drainage easement with some scrub trees, so wildlife wasn't a stretch. I'd hear the light click on through my bedroom window, glance at the clock, see 3:12, and go back to sleep. It was the 4th night that I actually got up and looked. Nothing, just a wide rectangle of grass, my grandmother's old bird bath, the wood fence dividing my yard from the Kowalskis next door. No raccoon, no branch. The light stayed on its full 90 seconds and clicked off, and I stood at the window feeling stupid for even checking. I mentioned it to my coworker on a call, half joking, and she asked if I had cameras. I didn't. Not really, just a cheap doorbell cam from 3 years ago pointed at the front porch. That week I ordered 2 more and put one facing the backyard, one angled down the side yard along the fence line. The cameras caught the light tripping. They caught nothing tripping it. That's the part that got under my skin. 90 seconds of footage, every single night. Time-stamped 3:12 a.m., and the frame stayed empty the entire time. No shadow at the edges. No blur of movement, leaving the frame before recording started. It was like the sensor was lying to itself. I called the security company. The technician on the phone told me sensors can degrade, get oversensitive to heat shimmer or humidity changes, and that a defective unit isn't unheard of. That explanation held for about 4 days, until I noticed something the technician couldn't account for. The bird bath had moved. Not far. Maybe 8 inches. Angled a few degrees off where it always sat, where a faint ring of dead grass showed its original spot. I'm not the type to imagine things, so I photographed it and compared it to a picture I'd taken of the yard for a real estate app 2 months earlier. The difference was there. Small, but there. I told myself the wind could have done it. Even though I'd never once seen that heavy concrete bowl budge in 2 years of Oklahoma storms. 3 nights later, the light tripped again at 3:12, and this time I was already awake, working late on a deadline. I went straight to the window, instead of checking the footage after the fact. There was a man standing at my fence line. He wasn't doing anything. He was just standing there, on my side property line, maybe 15 feet from the fence, facing my house. Mid-40s, I guess, wearing a gray shirt, hands loose at his sides. He didn't run when the light came on. He didn't move at all. He just stood there looking at my window, like he already knew I'd come to it. I stepped back before he could see me clearly see him seeing me, if that makes sense. And by the time I worked up the nerve to look again, the yard was empty. The camera footage from that exact window showed nothing. Empty grass. Same as every other night. Whatever had tripped the sensor, whoever had been standing there, simply wasn't on the recording, even though I had watched it with my own eyes 90 seconds earlier in real time through glass. I called the police the next morning, not the night of, because by the time I calmed down it was almost 4 a.m., and I told myself I'd rather explain a strange story in daylight than sound hysterical to a dispatcher. The officer who came out walked the fence line, checked the gate latch, and found nothing. No footprints, no disturbed mulch, nothing to substantiate what I'd seen. He was polite about it. He also asked me, almost as an aside, if I knew the man who used to live at my address. I didn't. My grandmother bought the house from an estate sale decades back, and I'd never once asked whose estate it was. The motion light stopped tripping after that night. 11 days of 3:12 a.m., then nothing. Like whatever had been doing it got what it came for, or got spooked, or simply decided I'd finally looked at the right time and there was no more point standing there. I moved the bird bath back to its original spot a week later. The ring of dead grass under it took another 2 months to fill back in. I still don't lock my bedroom curtains all the way. I leave about an inch of gap, just enough to see the fence line, without getting close to the glass myself. I found my neighbor's generator running behind my shed at 2 in the morning, and it wasn't plugged into anything. I'm Desmond, 38, married, 2 kids, and up until that July, I would have told you our cul-de-sac in the Charlotte suburbs was about as uneventful as they come. Cookouts, a decent HOA, a lake 3 minutes away by golf cart. My wife Priya and I had lived there 6 years without a single reason to worry about anything past property taxes. That night, I woke up to a low mechanical hum I couldn't place. Not the AC, I know that sound in my sleep. This was steadier, more industrial, coming from outside. I checked the baby monitor for our youngest, checked the clock, 2:07 a.m., and finally got up to look out the kitchen window that faces our side yard. There was a generator sitting behind my shed, a gas-powered one, maybe a 5,000 watt unit, the kind you'd use for a job site or storm backup, running, cord snaking out from it. But when I traced the cord with my eyes, it didn't connect to anything. It just ended, coiled loosely in the grass a few feet from the machine, like someone had started to run it somewhere and stopped. It wasn't mine. I don't own a generator that size. My first thought was that it belonged to my neighbor, Bill, 2 houses down, who does landscaping work on the side and keeps equipment in his garage. But Bill's generator, when I thought about it, was smaller and yellow. This one was gray, unbranded, older. I stood there for a solid minute, deciding whether to go out and shut off or call somebody first. In the end, I grabbed a flashlight and went out the side door in my boxers, feeling like an idiot, but more curious than scared at that point. Up close, the thing was newer than it looked from the window. Recently fueled, oil cap wiped clean, no rust despite the dented casing. Somebody maintained this machine. It hadn't been dumped there. It had been placed there deliberately, close enough to my shed that the noise would carry toward my bedroom window and nowhere else on the street. I shut it off. The silence afterward felt heavier than the noise had. I texted Bill the next morning, casual, asking if he'd left equipment near my shed by mistake. He said no, and that he didn't own anything gray, and asked why I was asking. I didn't tell him everything. I told him I found some equipment, and left it at that, because saying it out loud made it sound stranger than I wanted to deal with before coffee. 2 nights later, the generator was gone from behind the shed. In its place, someone had left 3 empty gas cans lined up against the fence, evenly spaced, caps all facing the same direction. Priya thought I should call the police. I agreed, but by the time I actually called, 48 hours had passed, and there wasn't much of a report to make. No theft, no damage, just unexplained property showing up and vanishing on our own land. The officer who took the report said it sounded like it could be a contractor's mistake. Equipment dropped at the wrong address. He wrote it up anyway. What that explanation didn't cover was the gas cans. Contractors don't leave 3 empty cans lined up like a display after quietly retrieving their generator in the middle of the night without a single neighbor seeing a truck. I started checking our security footage more carefully after that, going back through nights I hadn't bothered to review. On one clip, timestamped 4 days before the generator first appeared, I caught 11 seconds of figure walking the length of our side yard, close along the fence, moving unhurried, like he'd walked that path before and knew exactly where the camera's blind spot was. He walked out of frame in the one direction the camera couldn't follow, toward the shed. I never got his face. Every angle I had put him in shadow or looking down. We put up 2 more cameras and motion lights with overlapping coverage. Nothing showed up on them for the rest of that summer. No generator returned. No more gas cans. What still nags at me is the maintenance on that machine. Clean oil cap, recent fuel, no rust. Somebody kept that generator in good condition, somewhere close enough to carry it to my property twice without a vehicle anyone noticed. That means whoever was lives near enough, or spends enough time near enough, to do it on foot. I still don't know why my shed, specifically. We asked around the cul-de-sac, casually at the next cookout. Nobody admitted to owning a gray generator. Nobody admitted to seeing anyone that summer who didn't belong. The gas cans are still in my garage. I couldn't bring myself to throw them away, and I couldn't explain to Priya why I wanted to keep them, other than the fact that whoever left them might someday come looking for them. The pool cover in my backyard had been folded back exactly 6 inches from where I'd left it 3 mornings in a row before I understood what that meant. I'm Odalise. I'm 26. And that June, I was house sitting for my aunt and uncle while they spent 5 weeks in Portugal, a favor in exchange for cheap rent in a much nicer house than I could afford on my own. Their place sits on 2 acres outside Asheville, mostly wooded, with an in-ground pool out back that I was under strict instructions to keep covered and maintained since they wouldn't be swimming in it themselves. The first morning I noticed the cover was off. I assumed it was the wind. It gets gusty up there, coming down off the ridge, and the cover isn't anchored at every corner. I re-secured it, checked the clips, and didn't think much more of it. The second morning, it was folded back the exact same amount. 6 inches, same corner, same side. Wind doesn't fold a pool cover with that kind of precision twice in a row. I checked the clips again. All 4 corners were still clipped where I'd left them the night before, except that section, unclipped, folded back neatly, like someone had lifted the corner, looked underneath or into water, and set it back down without bothering to refasten it. I told myself a raccoon could have done it, even though raccoons don't unclip anything. I didn't have proof of a person. I just had a folded corner and a bad feeling I couldn't justify to my aunt over a phone call. So I didn't mention it yet. The third morning was when I found the footprint. Barefoot, adult-sized, pressed into the damp grass right beside the pool's edge, facing the water, like whoever left it had stood there a while. Not a print leading toward the house. Not a print leading away, either. Just one, isolated, like they stepped out of the pool itself and stood dripping on the grass before walking off onto the patio stones where nothing would show. That's when I called my aunt. She was 7 hours ahead, half asleep, and not especially alarmed. She said the property backs up to a hiking trail and occasionally gets teenagers cutting through to swim when the house looks empty. She told me to change the gate code and not worry too much. I changed the code that day. I also, out of a paranoia I couldn't quite name, moved a lawn chair to block the direct sight line from the tree line to the pool, so if someone were watching the water from the woods, they'd lose the view. That night, around 11, the motion light over the garage came on. I looked out from an upstairs window and saw someone standing at the edge of the tree line, not moving, facing the pool, or facing where the pool would have been visible if I hadn't blocked it with the chair. They stood there long enough that I started filming on my phone through the glass, hands shaking too much to keep it steady. Whoever was seeming to notice the blocked sight line took 2 steps to the side to see around the chair anyway, then simply turned and walked back into the trees, unhurried, like they had somewhere else to be and no urgency about being seen. The video I took is mostly useless. Dark, shaky, a vague human shape and nothing more. I still have it. I've watched it more times than I'd like to admit, trying to make out a face that was never there to begin with. I didn't sleep in that house again without every downstairs light on for the rest of the stay. The pool cover stayed folded exactly right every morning after that. All 4 corners clipped, no more footprints in the grass. My aunt and uncle came home 5 weeks later, and I told them everything, footprint and all. They laughed it off as trail kids, thanked me for handling it, and never brought it up again. I looked into the trail that backs their property before I left. It doesn't actually connect to anything for almost 4 miles in either direction. There's no reason for a hiker, teenager or otherwise, to come out of those woods at 11 at night and stand at the edge of somebody's yard, staring at water they weren't swimming in,